We are back, and we have here just what I was waiting for. It seems like the door knocking kind of interrupted me. So, looks like here, that's convenient. So I'm just going to place this down. Place this down here, and show off what everybody deserves to have. See, cannabis truffle. People can't get their phones straight nowadays. This is a cannabis truffle that contains 40 milligrams of THC, 0.6 of CBD. I prefer CBD, but see, CBD does not really seem to work very well unless it's combined with THC, which is a bit of the problem. So, it's raspberry flavored. And this leads me to one thing that we can do. One thing that I've done, which managed to keep reptilians away from me for a while, which was use cannabis. Because you see, if you're being tortured or harassed and you're just okay with it, it doesn't really work very well. If you're not screaming and such, they can't feed off of you. So, if, say, you have access to cannabis, like in the state, like for the one person who I saw on YouTube who said, they'd had negative comments about Ashtar, but had their own personal experience with Ashtar, I can tell you for sure, yeah, Ashtar is real and he's on our side. Or whatever, or you could say whatever about it, but I am alive because of what you'd call the entity Ashtar. So that's the proof that I have of it. Really, really, really good. Let's see what brand this is, you guys. Holistic Medicinal. Raspberry Chocolate Truffle Grass-Fed. Oh, and it's mostly it's organic, too. Organic hybrid blend. That's even organic cannabis. That's cool. I didn't know I was getting an organic truffle. But so things like that help us detach in a way from the pain. Those of us that don't have super out-of-body ability, or people that are planetary anchors like me. If you're a planetary anchor, you have to be pretty much inside your body, is what they told me, because otherwise you can't be an anchor. Think of the anchor getting dropped from a ship, and if the anchor is thinking to itself, I don't like being an anchor, I'm going to fly away, it can't do its job as an anchor, can it? So the idea is I have to be anchored here completely in physicality, and sometimes I'll even see objects as flat again, and I'll say, hey guys, I don't like seeing everything wrong, it's flat. And they'll tell me, well, we're sorry about this, but for right now, because of the level of attack they're trying to put at you or put out against you, we need you anchored totally into your dimension as it bridges forth. And then what I'm hearing now is after we get to more and more, so we're bridging forth, and at least where I am, and in a general sense at least, and then it will apparently pop very quickly to 5th. And again, I'm getting shown the picture of Paul that just walks out of prison. The one story where Paul's in prison, he's writing his letters, he's in shackles, and an angel just shows up. The shackles break off of him, the guards are sleeping, and the angel says, here, there's the door breaks open, and the guards are still totally asleep, they don't wake up to any of it, and Paul simply walks out of the prison. And I keep getting shown that image, repetitive, and I keep getting told, focus on that image, focus on that image. All the YouTube teachers that are enslaved, focus on that image. You focused on that when you were imprisoned and you walked out the door. You told them, you will watch me walk out that door healthy and alive. And it happened. And they thought that they had me for sure. They thought they were going to dine on my energy and eat my flesh after I died. After Marco Riza Rezganovic thought that he was going to take samples from me to see, oh, what kind of interesting resistant Arcturian do we have here? Let's create more super bacteria so we can kill off the rest of them. And when I realized very quickly that that was what they were trying to do, and so I refused to take any of the medications. Oh, and yeah, for all of you who can say, oh, well, she takes morphine, blah blah blah. I just cut the dose of morphine in half. And also for people with things that involving withdrawal, I'm going to outright prove to every single one of you in the Ibogaine community that you can stop opiates without any Ibogaine using just your mind. I am going to prove it to every single one of you. And you might, what people may wonder is, oh, look, an addict. Oh, no. People, I threw out the addict mentality a long time ago. I wouldn't be capable of what I've done if I was living in an addict mentality. I have a dependent mentality. When someone is dependent upon a particular drug, then if someone is dependent upon a particular drug, well, then they think, oh, I got to take that thing again. That's how I view it. Oh, I got to take that thing again. You don't believe me? Come watch, and you'll see, oh, I got to take that thing again because I'm going to the stupid withdrawal from that thing. But so how this could be relevant? You see, reptilians, they look into your mind, into your memories, into your past, and they try to use everything that you fear against you. Anything that they can think to use against you that has to do with a sort of fearful kind of mentality, they attempt to use. And once you completely let go of fear, then they simply can't touch you. And I think while we're doing this, I thought to myself on the one video when I was very admittedly kind of zonked out on my one smoking starseed video, because I mean, when you've got people after you trying to kill you left and right, you really want something to tranquilize you out. It's difficult to deal with when literally everyone in your town has got in their mind to assassinate you. But now I know it's starting to get through. Where I live, it's getting through their heads that they can't do it. And I know it's getting through the children's heads that, oh, well, we're supposed to be super children, and we can't even hurt her. But what she's saying is right. What our parents are telling us is wrong. What she's saying is right. And what Cryon says is, see, it's going to be the children, Krista, that come to you. The children will come to you, and they're going to say, my dad beats me with a belt, and this happens to me, and that happens to me. My dad rapes me. My mom does this to me. They lock me in a room. This is what they do to me. Help me. Please help me. They're watching me. I don't know what to do. That something like that will happen. And this was actually prophesied a long time ago, that people would walk into this very front door or knock at the door saying, please help me. Please help me do whatever you've done. Please help me because this isn't right, and I see that we're all going to die. So I'm simply going to kind of wait back for that. And what I was saying, I felt kind of bad in the fact that I was smoking pot in one of the videos. But I saw, another girl who I think the black and white in the videos. That's cool. That is cool. Since I don't have any video editing technology, since they broke my laptop, they use their telekinesis to break my laptop. So I don't have any editing software. I just have a phone and, me in the raw to steal someone's title, which I don't like, so I'm not going to steal it. Just the concept. But because of that, let's see, what do I have here? I ended up getting, cheaper deal on what one could get. Let's see. Oh, Alien OG. This is one. This company is run by some Yael folks. And the only reason, all your cannabis dispensaries are run either by Reptilians or Yael, okay, or both, if you're in California. And once you get onto their kind of radar, they may try to screw around with you. But I can say with this company's called MJ Holistics, and while the driver messed around with me, at first they almost tried to screw around with me, but then when they realized, oh my gosh, we're dealing with something else here, they treated me with an immense amount of respect. Or in general, when I said, look, this, weird stuff's been happening, finally the owner said to me, other people have told us that these things have happened to them with other companies. Their stuff disappearing, their marijuana disappearing at random and things like that, or being screwed over by the very dispensary that's supposed to be helping them. And she said to me, if they're not going to do their job, then at least I will. And I have to say, power to you. Won't say her name or anything. But I think that company is doing a very good job, even though it does appear to be kind of Yael influenced. But at least the Yael are, the smarter of the Alien versus Predator game here. But they're too smart for their own darn good, which makes them think that they're not human. It's imagine I'm getting a picture here, or a feed, an information feed, being told, Krista, imagine when you first activated. So remember, when I first activated, I didn't know this at the time, but I was zapped in the head by the Greys to attempt to force me to activate so that they could use me as their slave, because they were seeing, oh, this one's starting to, remember things. We want to get her on our side. Then we can use her for our advantage. That's what they were thinking. But so with this idea, what I'm getting, see, this information feed is kind of like, imagine that you're born in, he says, with the Yael, yeah, they act like assholes, but, and worse assholes than the Reptilians, because they're too smart for their own good, worse assholes. So he says, it's like, this is Cryon saying this. Cryon says, imagine that you were born into a kind of Jewish cult, which he says the way Judaism is taught now is like a cult. He's saying that with the Jews, the reason you will hear people say that they hate how the Jews act is because they act like a kind of cult, like the Amish, or like the mafia. Actually, Cryon says like the mafia. They act like the mafia. So imagine you're Yael. Imagine that you're born into this, and you are taught that ascension means what? I'm not sure how to interpret it. That ascension is, okay, Metatron. Going from Metatron is also associated with all the dark stuff. Don't listen to Metatron, really, or listen only to your instinct about it, which will tell you what you need to know, what you don't need to know, or what is true, what is false, like the ring pass not stuff. That's BS, because that means don't pass the ring. That means become trapped forever, or until your next life, or until you figure it out over again into the prison system. That's what ring pass not means. Or don't pass go, like I was shown in my mind, like a Monopoly board, like the word monopoly, monopolizing everything, and don't pass go, like you're stuck. That was what was shown to me for the meaning of the whole ring pass not concept in the Metatron All You Need to Know, our Mackenzie book. So Cryon says, imagine that you're born into this body with biology. He's saying, Krista, now your biology is Arcturian. That gives you an instant advantage in understanding the light and the dark, and understanding why the dark is the wrong place to be. But even though you say wrong place to be, you know that you mean the less preferred place to be. What they are taught, because their biology and their chakra system makes it, it's like the combination of the two, makes it so hard, that also again the word bionic, makes it so hard for them to go into the light that you talk about. They regress and say, oh, I'm a creature of the darkness, therefore I live in the darkness. Like a vampire. He's saying like a vampire type mentality. Okay, I'm a vampire, so I'm a vampire, and that's it. Just I'm a vampire. But he says, you see, he says, that's why I love humans so much. Cryon says, that's why I love humans so much. They are so adaptable. They, like with me, I was born totally normal person. Totally normal, had no interest at all in extraterrestrials. I thought that aliens weren't real. I had no interest in any of it whatsoever, and that was done on purpose with me. We engineered it from Ashtar Command so that when I would see things about aliens, I would turn away to help protect me. Because all the stuff about aliens and Dune, and the Animorph series and all that, all the book series about this sci-fi and all that, is meant to lure the star seeds so that they can be tagged, tracked, and attacked if they start to interfere with the global domination agenda. So Cryon says, okay, imagine that you're in a body. He says, just like feel it right now. Imagine that you're in a body. Okay, he says, first think reptilian, because people wouldn't need to know about the reptilians first, because the Yael and the Greys are after the reptilians. If you beat the reptilians, then that's when the Yael get involved. First, human hybrid Yael, and if you end up getting the better of them, then the real Yael get involved, and then the real Greys get involved, of whatever type of Grey you want to see. It's like, who cares? So he says, okay, first now think of a reptilian body he's okay, and the first thing I feel is a thirst for blood, like vampiric. Like, I need blood. I need blood to survive. I need blood to survive. I said this in the blood one that people appear to have watched quite a bit. The Ascension with the blood issue. Cryon says, and remember, Cryon was a reptilian, and he was a blue Lyran starseed into the reptilian race, who got murdered over all of this information that I am talking about, which is also why I'm still alive. So that's why I'm going to go out there and say it like that. I mean, people could say that girl's crazy, but you know what? If the crazy whatever thing kept me alive, well, okay, that's how I'm going to stand by that. I'm going to stand by what kept me alive. You can say you think it's crazy, well, I can say it kept me alive. You are thinking it's crazy versus me staying alive because of the information. I think that tells me, what I'm going to believe. So, the first thing he says, you feel it. There's a lust for blood, and it is biological. It's something that they do need to survive. But he says they're like hunger, like people that overeat. Like overeaters or drug addicts, or he says to me, think of it like a drug addict, since you weren't ever an overeater, where you just want something all the time, even though you don't totally need it. Say you're dependent on morphine like I am right now. You could go swallow 1 billion pills because you feel like it, or you want to get high, because see, when they feed, it makes them feel high, almost. It makes them feel high. When they drink fresh human blood that's full of fearful energy, it makes them feel like high. And he says, what those of them that want to ascend, like Michael the Good Reptilian, Those of them that want to ascend but that need blood to survive, where it is a biological mechanism that you can't get around, think of Godric from True Blood. Godric from True Blood was the oldest and most powerful vampire, but he said, there is a way for us to live in peace with the humans. There is a way. And he says, look at me. I've been able to survive on very little blood. And also, he was able to feed from people who were not scared. Now, remember, I said this already. Remember, there's this one scene where a girl's got her arm out like this, saying to Eric, the blonde-haired vampire guy, saying, oh, it's okay. And he says, but I can't do it if you're not scared. And see, that's the fear energy, the fear or anger energy. Anger is their second favorite if they can't get fear. Fear is their absolute favorite, but anger is the next best thing. If you are completely peaceful, even if your body is under complete duress or something, then that's very not tasty to them. It's very hard for them to feed. He says for the ones who would like to ascend, again, you have to, he says, okay, this is a lot of people in Sweden. A lot of you are in Sweden. What you have to do is, okay, he says, bring up, let the right one in, I know it in Swedish. I'm gonna say it in Swedish. I know it in Swedish. Rätt komma in. Let the right one in. Like in the book, let the right one in. The way the girl takes blood from the one guy and says, "Oh, I have an illness that I need this for," rather than actually, if the ones that can get themselves to do this, if you're trying to ascend your reptilian, you can do this. Rather than sinking your teeth into something, like Twilight, too, like the Twilight series, drinking blood that is from someone who is willingly donating it and who is thinking to themselves, I want to help this race ascend. I want to help this race ascend. I want to help this race ascend. And I am donating my blood to help this race ascend. Now, obviously, those of you who know reptilians will know that they pretty much lie about anything half the time, even though they're very sweet when you get to know them, or if they know that they can't screw around with you, like with me, they can act very sweet. A lot more sweet than the Yael and the Greys, which act like Darth Vader, between the two of them, who's definitely nicer? The Reptilians. The Reptilians are so much nicer than the Greys, and it ain't even funny. Even though they work with each other and they both do kind of the same things, same thing with blood, same thing with all that, but with being in a battle, basically, with a bunch of Reptilians. Remember, again, Cryon says, remember this from book 1, the light is biased to win. That's why you can be a candle faced with a billion mirrors all around you, the mirrors of, people holding up their mirrors, trying to do hexes on you, mirror magic, whatever. But you still stand because you are the candle. You are the true source, and they're the has-beens. They're the clones. They're the drones. They're the not real. You're the real deal, and they're the clone. They're the drone. They're the thing thinking mindlessly, whereas you're the real deal. But one thing that they get mistaken is that, and also humans get this mistaken, that, okay, we're the real deal, and you're the fakers, so we win. Now, even though it is kind of going to be that way because most of the reptilian race just doesn't get it, there are reptilians out there, and I've met 2 of them. They are in person. They are out there. They do exist. Who want humans to ascend, who want to ascend by themselves as well, who feel confused. They feel confused, they feel frightened, they're frightened of their own species, they're frightened of humans, because now they know the humans are thinking, oh my god, these things want to kill us, well, we're going to beat the crap out of those things then, we're going to fight back. So the reptilians that want to ascend are kind of in an underground right now, at least the ones that are mobilized or organized. They are in a bit of an underground, and they haven't talked to me yet, but hey, yeah, I think the reason they haven't talked to me is because I'm so monitored that it would jeopardize them if they talked to me, but I know that they're out there. I mean, if I actually met two of them in person, then yeah, they're definitely out there, and they are definitely asking for help, but there's so few of them that you really basically need to treat any reptilian like a threat. Or not, like a threat. That means a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you walk up to something and immediately think it's harmful, then it's going to harm you. But what I mean is on your guard. So you walk up to something, you're thinking peacefully, but you see something you know is reptilian. You simply, you have a defensive kind of attitude with it. Knowing, okay, I've seen what you guys do. Don't you think that you can fool me? If you would like help, then you can come to me. But if you are going to mess around, then you go back to your master and stay in the hell that you're in. Simple choice. So I'm getting told go through distinct things. Okay, burning candles that are white. If for people that like candles, burning these types of tall candles that are white is known to be protective. We've already gone through sage, is known to be protective. Now this was something that they tried to make as a puppet of myself. But see, I made this myself. So I thought, oh, you're trying to make it a puppet of me, huh? Well, I can make a puppet too. And guess what? She has a crown, because she's the queen. And she's got flowers, because she's a beautiful bride. And guess what? She's pregnant. Oh, look. So, if you find things like that, you find your hair, rolled up in some sort of weird doll or something, just take it, flush it down the toilet. That was what I found seemed to be the best thing to do with the stuff, flushing it down the toilet. Or they have something very symbolic about throwing things into a trash can. But when you throw something into a trash can, when they're really on you and they're using all of their rules and their system on you, throwing something into a trash can then invites something new. So think of that law of attraction. What you measure out is measured back. Okay, so something poisonous is here and I'm throwing it out. Okay, so then in their system, I would notice that when I would throw something out, something else would get thrown at me. Literally, I would throw something out, and then I would have like a cursed ruby suddenly thrown out of nowhere in the middle of the air at me and hit me. And I would notice it specifically correlate to when I would throw things out. So there is something about the idea of throwing something out that is very symbolic. Now, I do know that the concept of, say, throwing out a poppet that resembles yourself, that would probably be symbolic of killing it. But see, they don't tend to do that. I haven't quite figured out everything of their symbology with throwing things out. But I can also tell you they have some symbology about ripping things up. That was where you see my one video with what Howard says. I want you to take that masterpiece painting I told you about and rip it up in your mind to little shreds and burn it. I want you to rip up the entire thing until it is nothing but dust and oblivion, and we're going to start over again, because you know what? They're out of control. The iBegan community that I started is out of control, and you, Krista Hauer, are the only person who can hear me. You're the only one. And actually, you know what? You're not the only one who can hear me. But the other ones who can hear me tell me to fuck off. And you are the only one who is actually listening to what I want. So that's part of the reason that Howard's trying to protect me, because I can actually interpret, oh, he's saying you guys are screwing everybody over. He's saying you guys are covering up over dead bodies. Like, this has been complained about in Mexico at Ibogaine clinics for a long time. Dead body, people dying under the influence of Ibogaine, and then just being having the mafia paid off, la M paid off to take the body, dispose of it, and present a fake death certificate from a hospital. And people have gone on the Ibogaine list and outright complained, saying, my mother died at such and such clinic, and the hospital says they weren't even there. And then the neighbor says there were 2 ambulances there, and that the body was transported from one to the other. And see, this is where Patrick pulled me off the Ibogaine list. Why, Patrick? Why? Because I said, okay, wait, I know what to do. I can look through the eyes of the neighbor, and I can tell them what's going on. So I focused, and I looked, and I could see through the eyes of this neighbor, and suddenly I could see the situation. I could see someone in the guy who was in charge inside on the phone saying, like, we've got a situation. Might have been in Spanish, but the idea was, we got a situation, guys. Can you come over? And what happened was they called, I could see, oh, this is what happened. They called the ambulance. The ambulance shows up, but they didn't know the person was already dead. So, because the person was already dead, they had to call the coroner, and that's where the other ambulance was from. So, yeah, the woman was never at a hospital. This mother was never at any kind of hospital. They put the body into the ambulance just until the other ambulance showed up, and then transported it out, because they were like, oh, wait, she's already dead? Well, we can't take her to the hospital, and she's already dead. She has to go to the morgue. And that's why there were 2 ambulances there. And see, when I started saying that stuff on the Ibogaine list in public, and oh, Patrick, oh, Patrick Krupa is who I'm talking about here. Mr. Famous Hacker. And so, see, that was why I got pulled off of there, because I could see all of the deceit and deception that was going on in the Ibogaine community. I could see how different people were involved. And also, Patrick, I know how you're involved, and I know what you did. And so, as far as, okay, Cryan says, Chris, to go back to, with reptilians. We're talking about fighting reptilians. Being in a body where you lust after blood. And he's saying, so sympathize with them with that. So they lust after the blood. But he says, go to our video about consuming blood that does not contain the fearful energy. Okay, so then going back, and then you have to learn to do that. Like how I have to learn to drink the raw vegan meal. Guys, reptilians, okay, it tastes like shit. It tastes like shit, and I would never ask one of you to even attempt to drink the stuff. It tastes like crap. So, if you drink blood that has happy energy in it for the first time, and you're like, know that somebody else here is doing the same thing with stuff that just doesn't happen to be blood. We have to do it. If you want to ascend, you got to put forth the effort to do it. Okay, now he's saying, yeah, go back to the Yael, where you're in a Yael body. Something is different inside of their brain, which, okay, it's like there's very tiny amygdala. The amygdala is what's known as the reptilian, part of the reptilian mind that we have. That when all of you're probably familiar with this, where we were engineered. After the Pleiadians seeded us to the planet, we were then engineered by reptilians to be more like them in fight or flight mechanism, which is our amygdala, mostly. And our amygdalas became enlarged because of their manipulations and interbreeding with us. And so he says with the Yael, they've got an amygdala, but it's like a version of a human amygdala, but it's much smaller. And then what we would call the frontal cortex is very dominant, and that more of it is used than what the typical human uses of their brain. That where we talk about, oh, you only use 10% of your brain, where the Yael are using far more of the capacity of their brain. But what Cryon says is that they're missing critical elements of their biology. They're overlooking it. It's like it's not that they don't have it exactly now. By now, there's been so much genetic engineering that they've got reproductive systems coming out with stuff now to actually reproduce, to not clone themselves and stuff. But there is a critical element, kind of like the pineal gland, that they're not, how do I say this, that they're not accessing. Like where what Cryon says, where Krista is beating you all, is that she is recognizing that of the true divine. And the word true should be omitted from there. Just that of the divine. Where, like Jefferson Airplane, where logic and proportion have fallen, so be dead. Like that. Where everything is suspended and anything is possible. Where there is no math. Where Cryon says, okay, this is where you're getting to it, Krista, where 0 is, he told me 0 is the biggest number, and I was like, what? Well, and think of that, beginning, I'm the alpha and the omega, the beginning and the end. So that would mean, oh, okay, 0 could be the biggest number then, because it's the beginning and the end, right? And then 0, if you fold it upon itself, becomes 8 or an infinity symbol. And so it's that of nothingness and that of the infinite at the same time. He says they understand this very well. They understand this concept very, very well from a pure scientific kind of perspective. But they're just missing the... He says, like, I love humans for this reason. This is why I love humans. They just inherently know within themselves that the Creator is out there. And it's like the Yael, from coming from machines. Oh, this is interesting. The evolution that the Greys have gone through. Now, even though, yeah, I've had the Greys, again, my arm, injection mark on my arm, and stuff on my foot, and thing in the bridge of my nose, and all kinds of stuff with stupid Greys, waking up to having weird videos on my phone of apparently myself standing on my balcony in the middle of the night, which I know I did not do, or remember at least, and things to scare me, things like that. But what Cryon says is what the Greys are not picking up on, and by Grey I mean all version of it, like parent race Grey, and then like down from there, right? He says what they are all not realizing is the amazing expansion that is being created by their struggle. And actually he says some of them do understand that, but they hate it, and they're like, this sucks. I suppose it would suck if you were in like a body that, if you had biology like where I started off with biology that was psychopathic, okay? You guys need to understand. I grew up having to shove what I called this evil psychopathic part of my mind into a little corner. I imagined chaining it up and putting it in a little corner of my mind, but it would still sometimes come out. And I knew that it was biological, that it was somehow from my father or from my parents somehow, that I had inherited it, and my brother knew the same thing. He knew that he knew I inherited being a psychopath or something. He would ask me sometimes, Krista, am I a serial killer? So yes, I inherited that sick biology, those genetic errors, or what you could call that which is not preferred. Or I'll use Mad Child again, this artist, who says, I could be a psycho, but it's not what I prefer. Yeah, I could be a psycho, but it's not what I prefer. So what did I do? I focused so powerfully on wanting to be healed of whatever this biological error was, and it actually happened. I used to be able to close my eyes like this, wave my hand in front of my face, open my eyes, and suddenly a different person would be talking to you. A different person who was a psychopath would be talking to you. And I would do that for people to show them what the psychopathic mind was like, how sick it was. And what I would have to do to snap out of it, I would bang myself on the head. I would do all sorts of, I would do this. I would shake myself and have to breathe in and out and say, okay, and attempt to chain up whatever this, you could call it, genetic part of myself. But the error was literally reversed, and it will be an anniversary of that day on November 5th. Of this year, 2014. It will be an anniversary of that day. So if you're if that phrase, I could be a psycho, but it's not what I prefer, resonates with you, know that you are not your body. You are not your biology. Your biology is a prop to your consciousness. We could say it that way. Your biology is a prop to your ultimate existence right now, whatever you want to call now, whether it's time or not time. Your biology, your hardware, or your chips, or whatever, they're all props that surround your stream that is your soul. And that supersedes everything. That supersedes everything. And so also now for fighting reptilians, or for having to deal with the reptilians, if you fight reptilians, you just get them fighting you more. But what I'm doing is I'm saying, okay guys, yeah, you tried to murder me, and I'm really pissed off that you tried to murder me, and I'm going to say all of your names on YouTube, because you deserve it. But now I'm going to talk about how I'd like you to ascend, after I've got that out of my system. And here's how we can go about doing it, because that's why I exist, and that's why I'm still alive, to help everybody be one big happy family. If you're thinking, I am a psycho, but it's not what I prefer, or Eminem, I'm friends with those monsters under my bed, the voices inside of my head, you think I'm crazy? Well, that's nothing. If you're one of those people, but you're thinking, I am a psycho, but it's not what I prefer, but I'm a psycho. How do I not be a psycho if I'm a psycho? The way to do it, okay, Cryon, we need some help from you here. Okay, he says address the Yael. Okay, he says this is really hard. He says, okay, he says, you guys, you watched Krista, how she would get told to do something, but she would do it, but she would do something slightly different. Like how she would be told, go sleep in the room while we blow carbon monoxide on you and kill you or whatever. But she would go into the other room and sleep. Or it would say go outside, and she would know it meant outside in the parking lot, but instead she would go on the balcony. He's saying these examples of just slightly breaking the programming. He's saying that this, like for example, the reason your skin's gray because it's dying and stuff. He says it's like this, but like you're doing it with your own genetic coding. And something very strange gets warped in between the machine code with the grays, like I mean floating head type gray, little floating head, and going to Yael, and then ultimately your human Yael hybrids. There's something in between the human biology, which, okay, the Yaels are not going to like this, but Cryon says, which is technically superior, different, but more preferred, because they're the ones winning, whether you like it or not. That's the reason you want their genetic material. They're so valuable. And that's why you want them as slaves, but they're so darn smart that they're saying, nope, we're going to take back our planet. We'll work with you, but we're never going to be your slave, ever. Or we'll shoot you. You say you can shoot me? Oh, well, what if I shoot you? And what if I do it with my mind like you do? Oh. So with the the idea of the Yael who thinks to him or herself, I'm not technically sure half the time what gender I would call myself. I think in this weird exterminate kind of fashion. I can see the humans. They have something. They have something in them, and we've been controlling them all this time. But they still they have something in them that what is it that I don't have? They have something that I don't have. What is it that I don't have? And what Cryon says is, dear ones, it's not their genetics that you don't have. He's saying it's not that you are lacking their genome to hybridize yourself with. It's not that you're lacking. What you're lacking is state of consciousness, which is ultimately toxic. And knowing that your consciousness creates your reality, in having a toxic state of Dalekian exterminate consciousness, you create that kind of hell for yourself to live inside of. So, he says, you see, you don't have to focus upon, projecting. He says they project out all the potentials for the humans that they'd like to use in hybridization, and plan out for the kids ahead of time. You're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're going to do that. And they actually will think to themselves, he says some of them, that they will think to themselves, we are doing this for the good of our race. This is good and honorable. You must perform as we say, because it is important that we survive. Like in almost a half machine way like that. But Cryon says this is a toxic state of consciousness. The way you are determining, for example, for the children what to do, the way you are determining, we're just going to take that human and use it for our hybridization. Whatever. We're just going to do that. And knowing that humans have the creator DNA. He says that breaks basically like a type of universal law that must not be broken, and that's why this becomes such a big issue. Just taking them, especially when we humans are not stupid. It didn't take us this long to figure out what was going on. We've tried to rebel against this several times throughout history, and it's been covered up each time. I was told at least 4 times. We figured out that we were being ruled by lizards and big insect gray things, and tried to lead a revolt. But it was squashed each time. And that's also part of why the star beings, tried to come to remind us, hey, you're star beings, and you were tricked, and you were confused, you ended up being genetically modified, but don't worry, you're not your body. I keep saying it like that with the Buddhism thing, because, you see, they were trying to push Buddhism at me for a specific agenda that they had, which was negative to humanity. But now Cryon keeps pulling up Buddha, saying, you are not your body. As in, you are not the chip in your head, you are not the genes, you are not the blood running through your veins, the green blood running through your veins. You are not the Dalek that wants to exterminate stuff because its brain and its hardware is programmed that way. You are not your body, your hardware. You are not your hardware. You are your soul within it. And Cryon says some of them have a problem still because it's as if their soul is merged with a machine. And that's where Metatron comes in. Being somehow merged with a type of machine. Okay, he says this is something that by now, by now they've done so much genetic engineering that they can exist as their own soul streams, and it's like a toddler not wanting to let go of mommy. He just said it that way. It's like you're being toddlers not wanting to let go of mommy. So Overmind, Darth Vader type Overmind or whatever, you have to let go of mommy. Just like me saying, bye-bye, Mom. You think you can, you satanic programming, and you're actually reptilian. You were bred for control. You have the curved back, and you were born with it. You have the blonde hair, the blue eyes. You have all of that. You sought out my father to attempt to breed with him on purpose, and then you didn't know that your race lies to you. Therefore, he was possessed and beat the shit out of you. With the genetics, Cryon says that they've got enough beings alive now that can let go of mommy, meaning the computer, that can let go and walk, get up. He says it's like Jesus, get up and walk. He says they're holding on to their chips like leashes that they want to be on. It's a leash that you want to be on, whether you believe that or not, because if it didn't serve you, you wouldn't be on the leash. And see, we create everything in our reality. So if you create yourself into a body where you feel like a psychopath because your brain is wired that way, even though your soul is not, and you create yourself into this total situation of being on an electronic chip leash, you are the one giving it the power. You are the one giving it all of that. And see, he's saying, they're arguing back with you right now as you speak. They're saying, but you don't understand how this operates. You don't understand how this affects this nucleotide and this, and how this affects this in the body. And then Cryon's laughing. Cryon's saying, you see, this is where this girl's got it, and you guys don't. This is where she understands that even if she was studying this over again, because I used to be really good at this genetic stuff, just so you guys know. He says, if you understood what she understands, in that it doesn't matter how your little electronic leash works. The reason it doesn't matter how your little electronic leash or how your hardware operates is because your soul stream is ultimately sovereign. And okay, he says that they get hung up because they're connected to an overmind. So like Metatron type thing. So it's like they feel like they don't have their own independent soul stream. Okay. And so Cryon says, you guys have to cut the leash and own, like where I was told to own your mastery, own that you are an extraterrestrial master, and I can recite Katy Perry, even though I know all the yells hate that music. They hate that type of music, but like a lightning bolt, your heart will grow, and when it's time, you'll know. You just have to ignite the light and let it shine, then own the night, like the 4th of July, Independence. So, you're linked up to Overmind. If you're thinking, I don't like that, well, you're still in it because it suits you somehow. Somehow it suits you to be linked up to mommy constantly. If you want to let go of mommy, you have to do it yourself. You have to do it with your intention and focusing on, okay, you know what? I've been depending on this other thing This I've been depending on on this other consciousness for my soul, basically, and I've believed that if I'm not connected with it, that I don't have a soul. That's something I didn't know. Cryon just said that now. That the problem with separating from that overmind is that you feel like you don't have a soul without it. And he says that's programmed into you by the overmind thing, by the AI, and that it's a lie. That is a lie. So he says all that is required for the generation of your own independent stream, which has nothing to do with an overmind, nothing to do with being ordered around like a drone, nothing to do with being a slave, regardless of how much you get respected half the time, and then ordered around like a little dog the rest of it, and then told, okay, when you're done, we're just going to shoot you. Because the Greys and Yaels are even worse about that than the Reptilians, I think. The Reptilians, they'll let you have like a last cigarette, or, they'll say, what, you want a last meal or whatever, like before if they're planning to kill you, they will, extend some courtesies to you. But the Greys, and they're like Kill Bill. So for those that are, the Yael and Yael hybrids, that's what Cryon says. Yaels and Yael hybrids are the ones who are starting to think my life sucks. My life sucks, and I want what those light people have, but I can't have it because I'm in the dark, and I'm in the dark because it's permanent, because of because of my hardware, and because of this, and because of that, and Cryon says, no, it's a lie. So what you do, he says, is you have to invite the light into your main heart chakra. He says the system is pretty much the same for you guys as it would be for a human, so just corresponding, thing as it would be for you guys. He says you invite the light in, and he says there's fear. There's fear with separating oneself from that overmind, because it's like you've been feeding from that source for so long that you couldn't possibly imagine, where else do I get my sustenance from? How else do I survive? And he says the way you do this is, if it's really daunting, like in increments, but then he says, you know who's watching you. But if you need help with how to get around being watched all the time, watch her. He says that right now. Just watch her. With getting around being watched all the time. Oh, so you're watching me all the time? That is the best attitude to have, because then it doesn't matter that you're being watched. It only matters if you make it matter, because remember, you are the one creating the reality. You've been tricked into thinking that you have dependency on something else, tricked into thinking that you're a permanent psychopath, and for those who have gone into, some hybrid Yael, human hybrid Yael bodies, I would like to at least say, you guys had some guts. I mean, I know I had guts coming into where I came into and managing to make it out alive like this. I know that I had some guts being born half psychopathic and having to overcome that, but you guys who went into human hybrid Yael, where the soul stream's there, but you literally don't understand that it's there half the time, or something bizarre. You guys had some balls to take that on, but figuring out just what track you take is the question. So if the track that you would prefer to take is one of ascension, then what Cryon says is, I suggest you do what my associate is saying. Even though I could say it a little bit more coherently for everybody. But, okay, so he says, so you invite the light source in and then simultaneously slowly see yourself letting go. Then about, okay, being watched. The trick to being watched is don't give a shit. Literally, like, I don't care. Or put on some really blaring music. Don't put on angry rap music. If